Okay, good morning, everyone. My intention for class today is to work through the physical body, to do some specific things that help to free up the breath so that it just feels more natural, more expansive on its own, or more settled or more calm, depending on what you're needing. You will need a chair for class today. I see that most of you have those in your environment at the ready. We can start sitting on the floor if that's where you are right now, completely fine. I will also recommend that you have 2 blocks for class today. And if you have a blanket, that is going to be helpful, but if you don't have a blanket, we can roll up your yoga mat when we come to that part of class. Okay, so let's take a comfortable seat, an upright seat. I see that Evelyn's cat is coming to class. I really had a strong desire to bring the new kittens to class because the heat in this room is better than in the room that they're in. But then I would be distracted by kittens playing with wires, cameras. They haven't been in this room yet, so I'm kind of pacing their real estate in the house. They have to be where they are for right now, but they'll get to come to class in a couple weeks. You can see them. So I'll have Evelyn's cat as one of our students today. Yeah. All right, please take a comfortable seat and let yourself be mentally and physically at ease and present here. So you can rest your hands in your lap. Or sometimes, really, right now, it's quite nice to put one hand on the heart and one hand on the belly. Sometimes that's just a gesture of like self-kindness or tenderness or remembering our native vulnerability, which we're facing right now. Wherever you'd like to have the hands as a support. You're welcome to close your eyes and let that be kind of a signal to your senses that you're going to turn your senses inward. In ordinary daily living, our senses tend to go outwards and they bounce around to whatever desires or resistances, whatever cravings and reactions are there. So in yoga practice, we do intentionally guide the senses to be more focused, less restless, for the senses to be more purposeful, not haphazard. And then we do the same with the breath. So when you're practicing yoga, there's an intention to cultivate a quality in the breath, a pace, a smoothness, a kind of presence in the breath. And at all other times, the breath is kind of doing whatever we've habituated it to do. And a lot of that has a huge amount of history to it. For each time that we flinch, each time that we breath hold, the little flickers of stress that kind of co-opt or recalibrate the breath. So in yoga practice, we get to have a relationship with the breath that encourages it to be a resource for us. So do your best at this moment to welcome a slower, deeper, more full experience of the breath. And I did use the word welcome. Like, can you welcome that to come in? And can you welcome the exhale to be what it is? It does its own thing, and it knows how to do it. So you're not directing the breath right now. We're welcoming its possibilities. Now, to welcome the inhale means that we have to know if we're carrying tension in the belly, particularly in the lower abdomen. And then we have to be kind of willing to have that tension dissolve. And I would not recommend an attitude of forcefulness. The tension that we carry in the lower belly is not there randomly. So welcoming the tension to release, inviting there to be a dissolving of the holding pattern is a more kind way to come to this, not a coercive or forceful way. And lengthen your spine upwards, reach up through the crown of your skull. So your senses, your breath, and now your posture, they're all a part of your practice. Let's join the hands in Anjali Mudra. This is a gesture that means we're coming to this practice with intention. And we'll sing this morning, Sahana Vavatu, Sahana Bhunaktu. May this practice protect and nourish and strengthen us. May we overcome the difficulties. May we not succumb to impatience or animosity with ourselves, with each other, or with the practice. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanao Bhunaktu Saviryam Karavavai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavai. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanao Bhunaktu Saviryam Karavavai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavai. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanao Bhunaktu Saviryam Karavavai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om. With your exhale, you may bow your head to your heart. And release your hands. Please open your eyes. Okay, I'm going to step back also to my chair. And I'm going to ask us to start seated in the chair. And we can start all at the same level. There we go. Okay, great. I'm going to sit as a profile in my chair for you to start this morning. You can sit where you can see me, either whatever's comfortable for you in that regard. So when you sit, I'm going to ask you to sit at the front edge of your chair so that your pelvis has the freedom to move, the hips and sitting bones over the thighs like this. And then place your hands on your knees and try to take the hands down. I don't have long arms, so for me to put my hands and fingers over my kneecaps, it is a release of the shoulders downwards. And I'd like you to have a sense that you can lengthen the arms downwards, hold the knees with a little bit of firmness, and then lift your heart upwards. And just try that out for a few breath cycles. It can seem subtle, but as the arms and shoulders go down, and your heart, your upper palate, the crown of your skull go up, try to sense the bi-directional pathway, downward and upward. In fact, root your tailbone down. Try to get a sense that your pelvis is firmly seated on the chair. As you rise upwards from there, the internal lift is at the spine, just along the front of your spine, in the center of the heart, the roof of the mouth, and the crown of your skull. Now, as you next inhale, begin arching your back and lift your chest and heart into cow pose, is what it's called. And then exhale, and from your tailbone, roll your spine into cat pose. Now, this is usually done in a quadruped, so cat and cow makes more sense. Let's inhale to a lifting pose, an opening pose. And then exhale to an inward pose. Inhale, roll forward and up. And exhale to roll down and in. And try to make this now at the pace of your breath cycle. And I know I've spoken to some of you, like most of you, that the length of my breath is probably longer than yours at the beginning of a yoga practice. And that's from years of experience with yoga, preceded by being a long-distance swimmer and also a trumpet player and an athlete. So my breath cycle may be longer than what yours can be. And the idea in yoga practice is to attune to what you can do so that it's smooth, nourishing, steady. With your next exhale, come to your simple seat again and reach your hands back to hold the sides of the chair. Whatever kind of chair you're sitting in, if they have sides, that's awesome. If you've got arms on the chair, reach around the arms to hold the sides of the chair. And then inhale again to go up and squeeze your shoulders back. And then exhale and draw the spine to the downward inward pose. Inhale, roll forward and upwards and outwards. Exhale, you can begin with your tailbone and your head together, so you're rolling inward and downward. And then roll it forward again. So the pelvis is moving here, and so is the rest of your spine, undulating. Let's do it 3 more times through both poses. Moving at the pace that is your breath cycle. And also respecting the amount of flexibility that your spine happens to have right now. Know that you're working on it, but respect the flexibility you have at this time. And then bring that back to neutral. And I'm going to ask you to pause deliberately to notice if the breath, the natural resting breath, might feel any bit more easeful right now. The discovery of how little it takes to shift the breath is a very important and empowering discovery. Because if it takes you 1 or 2 minutes to make a shift, and you can find 1 or 2 minutes before a cigarette or some other apparatus, what we can do is implement the yoga to help nourish the brain and body so our decisions come from a place of wisdom and vitality, rather than habit and roboticness. Okay, now I'd like you to have the feet directly under your knees. Cross your left hand to your right knee and place your right hand on the chair seat behind you. When you twist to your right, take notice that the knees are equal. So you don't see one of my knees in front of the other. And twist in your upper back and your heart, and then also in your head and your gaze. Now, as you've turned the upper portion of your torso and your spine, keep the chest lifting, the heart lifting, the crown of your skull lifting. And see if you can allow the breath to come down into the belly and the pelvis. So no need to hold tension in the belly right now, but do keep your heart lifted. And see what you can do to participate with your exhale. Think of the exhale almost like squeezing a sponge really slowly. And maybe your exhale is 2 or 3 counts, or 5 or 6, or a little bit longer. Don't make yourself breathless. Now, as you next exhale, release the twist partway. Place your right hand on your left hand like this. Now what we're going to do is inhale and open to the right, and then exhale and come to face forward. Now time this so that when you inhale to open, you're using your breath cycle and the pace of your breath to determine your movement. And you exhale, and same thing, follow the pace of the breath. When you inhale to open, you can think a little bit about that opening pose that we call cow pose. And as you exhale to come forward, think a little bit about your cat pose, the inward downward pose. And you can start adding that upward outward to the twist a little bit more. And we can add inward and downward to the return a little bit more. Again. You might notice that in my case, I'm taking the right hand higher. When I add the upward and outward, my twist has an upward trajectory. Here's the last one. Inhale. And exhale. And then roll up to sit. Okay, and you might feel like a zigzag on your back, like one side is more limber, the other side hasn't been addressed yet. So now cross your right hand to your left knee. Walk your left hand around to the chair seat, and as you're twisting to your left, look over your left shoulder. Keep the inner body lifted. So I want you to have a sense, if you were a slinky, the bottom part of the slinky is still ground, but you've lifted from the middle to the upper part of the slinky so that the breath is going to be welcomed, invited down into the pelvis and the lower belly. Notice the quality of the breath and how you can participate with your exhale. Think of the exhale like squeezing a sponge slowly. And now unwind, but keep your right hand where it is. Place your left hand on your right hand. And begin first just with the twist being paced by your breath. So you inhale, open left. Exhale, return. Inhale, open at your body's breath pace. Exhale, return. And you can sort of slowly start adding now the upward, outward, inward, downward. So a little hint of cow pose in your twist to the left. Little hint of cat pose in your return to center. You can add little hints of that as you go. And then notice your body's desire for more upward and outwards. Also your body's inclination for more inward and downward. We'll do that one more time, please. And then bring this one also back to center. And let's pause again to feel what is the influence from this simple practice? What's now happening with your breath and your mind? And if there are times where a simple practice is not able to kind of penetrate the density of the mind, the anxiety of the mind, if there are times where a simple practice doesn't help to kind of eradicate some of the holding in the body, then what we know is that we're carrying like a larger residue, and it needs our respect. Not our coercion, but it needs our respect. So now I'm going to ask you to get your 2 blocks so we can change this position slightly. The poses will get a little bit more dynamic in class, and you'll have a chance to sense, okay, when does your residue, when does your fog get sloughed off, and when is it still hanging around? So please put these 2 blocks so that you can come forward and press against them. So what I have here is my right foot, right hand, left foot. Now your blocks could be made a little bit taller. If you were to put them, for example, on a second chair or on a coffee table, then you'd have a little bit more height if this is not tall enough. And I'd like you to press into a cat pose spine, and then roll into a cow pose spine. So this is a back bend spine, and this is a forward bend spine. This is called flexion, and this is called extension. Now, frequently people will use the exhale for this flexion spine. Go ahead and try that. And they'll use the inhale for the extension spine, the back bend spine. Try to make it according to the pace of your body, and check that it's not only your head moving, right? That the whole spine gets to move, including your sacrum, which is 5 small vertebrae fused together. Include your lumbar spine, should have the capacity to move into cat and into cow. And do it one more time, please. Exhale to cat pose. And inhale to cow pose. And then make the spine level, neutral. Walk your hands to your knees, rise up to kneeling. Okay, make your heels and toes a little bit wider. This is based on your inner thigh flexibility, of course. And then lean forward, so you're gonna press out against the knees. So my stance, if I didn't have a chair, would look like this. It's called the jazz dance warm-up pose. So when you take a stance, you can also call it sumo wrestler pose, I think. So when you take this stance, press out, so the inner right thigh, inner left thigh are both getting longer. And as you press down now, I'm going to ask you to round the spine a little bit like your cat pose. Press down and bring your spine to cow pose. And then press down and try cat pose again, and try including your pelvis. It is going to change the sensations in the inner thighs. So when you come forward now to your cow pose, the pubic bone can drop down, keep the knees wide, raise your heart and your collarbones. And then you're going to exhale, and the tailbone does go down, the pelvis does rotate. And do that one more time, please. And then come to what you would think of as neutral. So you're neither in that cat pose nor the cow pose, neither flexion nor extension, but neutral. Okay, turn your left fingers in and down so they point towards your left foot. With your right hand on your right knee, please twist to your right. And I'm going to ask you to keep the arms straight, because I want you to twist with your spine, not with your elbows. And ask yourself the question again, how much your body can welcome the inhale, so not holding unnecessary belly tension. And how your body can welcome the exhale process, which is a bit like squeezing a sponge slowly. The sponge that you're squeezing is in the deep low abdomen. It's not as much the upper abdomen, and it's not the chest. Let's rotate back to center, and then turn your right fingers pointing down towards your right foot and twist to your left. As you're twisting left, try to keep the right inner thigh long. And notice the pathway of the breath. Does it reach into the back of your body? Can you sense it in the sides of your waist? Know that you're in process, and every time you practice, you're going to be cultivating greater capacity. Please come back to center. And you'll also be kind of reducing the load on your system that limits your capacity. And by load, I mean things like stress or tension or the residue in the muscles for that stress and tension. Let's bring the feet and knees back in, please. And try noticing what's happening now from the perspective of, okay, what's unfolding? And one more thing in our seated sequence here. Right now you have 2 blocks, and I'm going to ask you to do it where you're going to put your feet and shins to be parallel. Put one block tall on the inside. The other block you may or may not need. And when you come down, place your right hand on your right knee, left hand on this block. And then press down against your right knee with your right hand and twist your upper body to your right. Press firmly into the strength of your left arm, because that's also supporting your twist. So this is kind of just like a slight forward bend, right? We've only come a little bit forward of vertical, but it is a twist. And I want you to see if you can find the exhale supported by the strength of your arms. Right? So when you're exhaling, make the arms stronger and see if that gives you more access to toning the deep low belly. And you're going to inhale and lengthen the spine on the angle that we're on. Right? Think of it like that slinky again, especially lengthen your mid-spine and your upper spine. And then rise up to sit, and we're going to change sides. So take your right hand to the block, left hand to your left knee. Press down as you rotate your spine to your left. Use the strength of your right arm and the strength of your left arm. In the downward pressure of your right arm, try increasing that as you exhale. Listen inside for the pathway of the breath. And then exhale one more time. Be strong through both arms. Notice the strength of the low belly. And then bring yourself up to sit. And something that can happen, I should let you know, is that now when you sit, you might each time start becoming aware of like how deeply tired you are, even as you're also becoming aware of some burst of vitality or some mental clarity coming. You can also become aware of how tired your body has been. Okay, now I'm going to ask you to come up to standing with your 2 blocks and place them on the seat of your chair, like this. Okay, so there are certain positions in the physical body that when we do them, it prevents you from being what we call a chest breather. And chest breathing is what many people are doing just throughout the day. They're chest breathing here, which is usually a more shallow breath, rather than belly breathing, or we sometimes call this diaphragmatic breathing, which is to say that the position that we're in is going to make a difference here. And I'll show you this in just a moment. All of you who are in this class today are familiar with the pose called downward facing dog. I already know that because I know who's here. But for those people who don't already know it in your life, it's a great position for letting the diaphragm become the source of breathing again. So I'm going to tie this aside where you can see a little bit better. So what I'm going to do with the hands being up on the blocks on the chair, the purpose there is to have this be a little bit higher, but more stable than the upper back of the chair. And when you step back like this, I want you to sense, when we said cat pose and cow pose earlier, try to sense, I guess that won't work with the shirt, so we'll just do this. In cow pose, we were arching the spine like a cow in a field, and you're going to be looking forward when you do that. In cat pose, we were rounding the spine, like when the Halloween cat rounds its back. So these might be smaller movements for you than what you see for me. And they don't have to be large movements to be effective, but I do want them to be smooth movements for you. So place your hands on your blocks on your chair seat. Of course, if you have a tall chair, you can just use the chair directly. Let's see if you can find some movement along the spine. I don't want you to have a sense that you're going up like an umbrella or going down like a hammock. It doesn't have to be that far. Think of the movements that are more fluid, more smooth. The word we use in yoga is actually more unctuous. Unctuous is like a quiet, soothing river moving through a landscape. So think of the spine like that, please. And slowly see if you can find what's going to be called the middle path between your cat and your cow, where your spine feels like it's neutral. The lower back is not overarched, the upper back is not over-rounded. And rest your head in line with your spine. And listen now to what the breath can do here. Enjoy one more inhale. Breathe in through your nose, please. And then exhale, press down with both hands against the block so that you can walk forward towards the chair. One big step, second step, and rise up. And without thinking, without intellectualizing, just notice what happens next with your breath. What happened next, just right there. Any tension that you might have kind of unwound in the chest and shoulders may give you greater access to breathing in the belly. You may have a different experience than that. Okay, now I'd like you to take a wide stance like this. I'm a little too close to my chair, so a wide stance. And then come down either to your forearms on the blocks, or based on the height of your chair and your flexibility, you can put your forearms on the chair. Now press down into both elbows, both forearms, the sides of your hands, and round your spine once more like the cat. And roll your spine through like the cow pose. And do that slowly and try to sense where you can have beautiful movement in your body, unctuous like a river in nature. And try to also sense the role that your mind plays in allowing the movements to become more graceful or more smooth. So the breath gets to be welcomed into your body, but also your breath, if you want to give it a metaphor, anthropomorphize it, your breath gets to enjoy the inner experience of your body. Maybe the way two dancers dance really well together and we can see that they are enjoying each other's dance. Now the next time that you come through cat or cow, try to find neutral, your neutral spine. And I'm going to ask you to scoot back from your chair. I'm going to move my chair a little forward. Easier for me that way. And if your chair is metal, like mine is, let me recommend that you pat it like this. Place your hands on your blocks and let your forehead come down. And the thing is, I want your head to feel supported by the chair, not like it has to fall down to get to the chair. So place the blocks at the height that you need, and the blanket or the chair at the height that you need. And please support your head. So this is going to become a little bit of a twist, and I will show it to you. Let me say the following. The farther or closer your feet are to each other, the higher or lower your hips will be. The more height you have for the blanket on the chair, or the less, then the higher or lower your head's going to be. You also change the blocks by changing their height. So let's twist to your right side first. So pick up your head and turn to your right. And I know this is my left. I'm going to mirror you guys. So turn your head to your right, and then reach your left hand to hold the toe of the chair underneath. And press down into your right arm, so that's going to be strong. So I want, just like we did before with the twist, the downward pressure of your support arm, which is your right arm. That is important. Try to bring the breath into the back hemisphere of your body, especially on the left side. Notice that you can't chest breathe right now. Your body won't be inclined to start the inhale at the chest. You'll be inclined to start your inhale in your lower pelvis, mid-belly. Perhaps you're in the upper belly, but the breath can start going down to start at the pelvis. Now release your left hand back to its block. Press into both arms. Lift and bring your head to center. And then lift and turn your head to your left, so you're on your left temple. Keep the left arm strong now and reach your right hand under to hold the toes of the chair there. And as you press down firmly with your left arm, think of that as an essential part of your twist. Breathing in and breathing out. You're just taking your time, noticing the breath. And if it's possible, the breath can come into the right hemisphere of your body. And then when you next exhale, keep your left arm strong. Place your right hand back on its block. Make both arms strong. Lift and bring your head to center. And then let's go heel toe to center. You can make the blocks taller if you need to. Press down against the blocks. Walk your hands up to your chair seat if you like, and then rise up to standing. Now your head was low compared to your heart for several minutes, so you might get lightheaded. That should settle out though, I hope. Let's put the blanket aside and put the two blocks back on the chair seat, please. You now step forward and keeping your right foot forward. Now I'm not going to mirror you, so I'm going to say right and left, it'll be my right and left. So keeping your right foot forward, step the left foot back like this. And let's put the left heel at an angle behind you so your foot is on the floor, the back heel can come down. Say hello to your calf muscle. And I want you to strengthen also the back of your left hip here, so these muscles should feel toned, and you can press firmly down into your left heel. Now if you look a little bit forward and you see how far away is the upper back of the chair that you're using. And if it's possible for your fingers to reach, the left fingers to reach to the upper back of the chair, go ahead and do so. You can keep the right arm strong and straight. Just place the left hand up over the upper back of the chair. Now as you breathe in, lengthen the left side of your waist and start pressing down firmly with your right hand into the block, so you're just twisting the upper back a little bit to your right. And I know that for some of you, even a little twist of the upper back to the right, it also means a major stretch at your right outer hip. Just notice how you make this little bit of a twist, like the left arm is reaching, the right hand is pushing. We do have a push reflex in the body, so think of it as the action of push, not like a mental push. We are not pushing the body into yoga poses, but the right arm has to use a push reflex here. This is also a balance pose. See if you can turn your head to your right without losing track of your left foot. And then rotate your head down to center. Keep the right arm steady and place your left hand back on its block. Now you can bend the right knee a little bit and step forward with your left foot and back with your right foot. And so the back heel can be slightly in, the toes slightly out. Tone your right butt, the back of your hip should be strong there. And root down from your lower belly into your back heel. And then look forward to the upper back of the chair and reach with your right fingers. Of course, you can be closer to your chair. Depending on the design of your chair, you might have to be closer to make that work. Now, if you press down with your left arm using a straight elbow, you're going to already start having a twist to your left. And breathe in and out. As you twist to your left, if you get that major stretch on your left outer hip, I want you to smile at it, please. The push reflex of the left arm, we want to keep that strong. The right hand might almost feel like it has a pull reflex, but I want you to just actually keep it reaching out. We have reflexes for pushing, pulling, we have a reaching reflex. We have a turning towards and a turning away from reflex. These are psychological and physical. I don't want you to hear the push reflex of the arm as me saying push your body, it's just that that's the reflex that you're using. So press down into your left hand, return your right hand to its block, bend your left knee and step forward. Let's come to mountain pose where you can sense then, okay, how is the breath now? So mountain pose. Hopefully we're unearthing some of your vitality, right? So we're going to be doing something now that we're going to come down to the floor, and I'm going to talk about the thirds of the torso. So if you look here for a second, like this is the first third of the breath. I guess I can't use it. I guess I could. That's the first third, middle third, and then there's going to be the upper third of the breath. It's like 1, 2, 3, like that. So what I'm going to recommend is that you have your 2 blankets, but I'd like us to fold them in a specific way. If you've been in the restorative class, you've seen this. So a long blanket folded in half becomes an extra long blanket like this. Okay, and I was saying earlier, 1 blanket would be enough, so we'll start with 1 here, and if people have 2, then we can add a second blanket. But it's not necessary for making this possible. So the length of your blanket, when you sit on it, you're going to have your hips on the blanket, your spine, and your head. And to get onto the blanket and have your legs up on the chair means you have to roll on here thoughtfully. which is why 2 blankets will be quite a bit harder to roll onto. You would feel like you're rolling up onto a speed bump. Or like in Mexico, they call them topes. Okay, so when you lie down, then take your feet and knees up to the chair. Okay, now in this position, place your hands on your lower belly to start, right here. And just try to observe without making something happen. So the breath coming in, the breath going out. Is it possible for you to watch your body like you might watch the fish in the aquarium? Particularly if you go to the large aquarium, you say, whoa, look at those interesting fish. Can you have that kind of attitude right now for how your body is receiving the breath? Now keep one hand on the low belly, move one hand up to the mid-torso, solar plexus, floating ribs. And let's see if you can encourage the breath now to begin in the lower belly and then to include the mid-torso for the inhale. And then begin your exhale in the lower belly again. Do that a few times. Can you encourage the breath, pelvis and mid-belly on the inhale? And then the exhale, like slowly squeezing a sponge in the first third of the torso, down in the pelvis. Now what you can do is let's add the upper third for the inhalation. So the inhale is going to be first, middle, and upper third. The exhale is going to focus in the lower third of the abdomen. So you can try it like this. I'm going to switch my hands so you can watch my left hand moving. So it'll be inhale, lower hand, continue the inhale to the middle hand, and then inhale to the upper hand. And you can actually move your hand to help yourself pace that. And the exhale from the lower hand, so you place that back down. And again, inhale lower, middle, upper. And exhale lower, first third of the torso. And do that twice more, please. So you're really watching and balance the cultivating of the instructions with respect for what your body can do. Don't allow any frustration to come in. It won't be helpful to you. Now, if it was difficult to get the breath to come into the upper third, that's common. So I'd like you now to take your left arm overhead. And imagine breathing on the left side of the torso. First third, middle third, upper third. And then notice the exhale. Think of that as coming from the first third of the torso. going to switch arms. So bring the left arm down, take your right arm overhead. You might have differences right to left in both your shoulder flexibility, but also in how the inner body welcomes the breath. So try it first third, middle third, upper third, thinking of the right hemisphere of the body. And then release your right arm down. And I'm going to ask you now to place both hands on the lower belly. You're not researching or evaluating anything, but it does help us to bring the mind in and down. Now, if your head would be more comfortable, because let's say the upper back's a little bit stiff or the neck feels nourished by having contact, then you make a little roll under your neck to support your head. And then drop your attention down into the pelvis where your hands are. And see if you can let the mind turn off, actually like a radio. You're going to not just change stations, but turn the volume down on the radio of the mind and turn it down until you hear the little click on the radio dial. Let your mind and your eyes be still, like you turned down the knob on the radio. Invite everything to rest, and don't underestimate the power of the practice you were just doing, for it can resolve aspects of physical and mental tension. And that's very powerful in itself. Allow that stillness to go a little bit deeper. It may mean a continual surrender of thought to be with the stillness. to go a little deeper yet again. The mind can become more and more still, like a mirror, neither moving about nor inaccurately reflecting. Now a little deeper yet again. Just a couple more minutes. Allow this stillness to be something your body starts to take refuge in and feels nourished by. Now allowing for that stillness to be a kind of refuge. Change only one thing in your pose. Bring the soles of the feet towards the front of your chair and put the soles of the feet together and knees out to the side. Now we have kind of placed your thigh and hip relationship back like in utero. Not precisely, but close. And see if you could sense the pelvis and the deep belly relaxing into this pose. And notice if the breath does sort of gently rise and fall in the abdomen. Slowly bring your knees back to center, and thoughtfully you're going to roll down to one side, and it can be helpful to have one foot on the floor and one arm overhead, and then you roll down, take the second knee and bring it down. Lie on your side for a moment. And then you press down to come up to sitting, and I'm going to ask you to take a seat for meditation. And that could be that you're sitting on the floor. Could be that you're sitting in your chair. I'm going to sit closer where I can see you. When you come to your seat, let me change my camera view. Yeah, great. Then rest with your hands in your lap. So time to be at ease, to just listen to the ease that your practice may have cultivated for you. Listen again for the possibility of ease that your practice invites you to. Keep your mind resting on the ease, the possibility that you can get to know a state of quietude or ease or stillness. That you'll also be able to recall it, remember it, even revive it. And let's bring your hands together at your heart. We say in yoga that we can't really inquire, we can't explore or investigate so well the nature of the mind or life or the emotions, really anything, if we don't have a stable enough mind for the exploration. Like our curiosity is preceded by enough stability, enough grounding, that we can quote-unquote afford the curiosity. We're willing to be curious. So thank you for dedicating this time to kind of stabilize your mind and your body. Sahana bhavatu, sahana bhunaktu, saviryam karavavayi. Tejasvimnavaditamastu ma vidvishavayi. Om Shanti Om Shanti Shanti Om. Thank you very much, everyone. Namaste. So nice to be with you. You're doing a great job with your yoga.